There are many characters in Overprime that are desperately needing a kit rework, chief among them being Wraith. Now, before you decide to grab the pitchfork and torches and proceed to drag me to the stake and burn me for such heresy, let me explain to you why they need a rework and how it could majorly be beneficial to not only the characters themselves, but for the longevity and the benefit to the game overall. Before we get into this discussion, let's quickly discuss why updating / reworking an entire character's kit is essential for the longevity and health of the game. Paragon came out on December 8th of 2022, and in the first year, Netmarble released 14 heroes into the game. The original plan started with adding 2 heroes a month, but reduced it down to 1 hero a month, as it was causing severe balancing problems, and as such had a lack of polish due to how quick and rushed they had to be to meet the original plan of 2 heroes per month. As with any competitive game, some of the core pillars developers should strive for is balance, viability, enjoyment, and counterplay. When one of these factors is out of line, that is when changes are made. It is not an easy feat to accomplish, or something that is even possible. Overprime currently suffers from some characters not containing more than one of these pillars, hence why we are here today. One of the many things they can do to keep things fresh and make their characters still viable is through kit adjustments and or complete overhauls in order to create a better experience of both players playing as and against these characters. A key example I can personally remember is back in Smite, when they reworked most of Odin's kit and fundamentally changed how he was played and what types of builds or styles he would even fit into from then on. Through this, he became a more viable and fun character to play, rather than just jumping in and spinning at everyone. Another major example can be found in League of Legends. While I have not personally played it myself, I have friends who have told me about various character reworks that have had extremely positive reactions from the community. Look at Pantheon, Warwick, Urgot, Nunu, Poppy, and so on. With all that being said, let's look at a prime example of a hero in need of these kind of drastic changes the most. The first one I can point to, which a lot of others have made obvious posts and statements about, is the main guy from my title, Wraith. His kit currently consists of his Q, which gives him a free ward with a much shorter cooldown than the default one everyone has access to. His E, which lets him rewind a single target to where they were 3 seconds prior to the rewind. Then you have his right click, which in my opinion is one of the most blatant needs for the rework, which lets him hit a target 30 meters away from him, either in the open or through towers, ignoring all terrain with a hit scan snipe that has a relatively high magical damage coefficient and a very short cooldown, with it being 5 seconds base. And finally, his ultimate, which lets him turn himself and allies around him invisible for a few seconds while increasing their movement speed by a moderate amount. The first thing to unpack from this as bad kit design is, well, his role, or lack thereof. In the game itself, he is classified as a ranger, yet not one piece of his kit reflects that label at all. Not only does he have only one damaging ability, dealing magical damage, but he also does not have the attack speed nor physical damage to warrant being a ranger. If anything, he feels like he was designed to be a support / marksman hybrid. Now, I can hear people say, but Spider, they can just change him into the caster or support role and it's a done deal, right? Wrong. This still leaves him with a kit that encourages non-interactive gameplay. Wraith's right click is the most obvious elephant in the room. It is both incredibly annoying and non-interactive to play with or to play against. I mean, think about it. A 30-meter ranged ability with the capability to hit scan a target through all terrain and towers. It is low risk, high reward. Not to mention, there's very little counterplay in lane due to minions body blocking the skill shot is too inconsistent. As for character-specific ways to mitigate, there are a few such characters who either have wall-based abilities like Steel or Terror, or a skill-blocking shield like Fang Mao has. This gives him such abuse early game dominance that it all depends on the Wraith player being careless. As the game goes on, this ability just becomes a cheap poke and that's it. Due to teams having more health and items, it becomes less effective in teamfights due to its single target priorities, but it's still unfun for that one player that is getting hit constantly. Being unable to fight back against the Wraith due to him shooting you through terrain is the worst kind of interaction you can have due to them feeling helpless. Then there is the extra ward he gets from his Q, which has a much shorter cooldown than the standard free one every player has access to throughout the whole match. This enables him to outward the support with relative ease, as he can just keep throwing out his drone and clearing wards and have it up way more often than Scout Ahead or the base free wards cooldown timers. Another thing about his drone which makes things very inconsistent is that when you destroy his drone, you get nothing from it? This doesn't make sense, as with other characters that have deployables like Bellica, Iggy, and even Marty, they all have some kind of reward to give to the player for destroying them. Usually it's 23 gold per Iggy turret you get rid of, or 30 gold for destroying Bellica's mana drone, and yet with Wraith's war drone, it gives you nothing for finding and destroying it. Why? This fundamentally makes no sense with how the rest of the deployables are treated in the game. Once again, there is very low risk and high reward. A character who can use abilities with no thought causes frustration and inequity with other characters with similar mechanics. This seems like a massive oversight, but it needs to be corrected so that it is on par to other deployables if they decide they want to keep this ability as part of him permanently. The Rewind brings home his non-interactive playstyle. Being able to target an enemy hero within 19 meters from the target? Yeah, you heard me right. In one of the most recent patches, they buffed the range to be capable of latching onto someone further away. Without any reliable way of cancelling the ability or playing around it, players will get frustrated. Not only that, but it is very situational in teamfights. Simply rewinding someone 3 seconds ago isn't always the best thing, and doesn't justify picking Wraith over other characters that have much more reliable and useful CC tools. And as for his ultimate, while this may be the least problematic portion of his kit, it sounds better than it actually is. Now don't get me wrong, it has its moments where it can be used in an interesting way, like team-wide invisibility sounds really cool on paper. But as it is now, its practical uses are few and far between, especially when compared to any other ultimate in the whole game. This hurts as I feel like there is room for this ability to be more impactful and fun to use. Through all of this, from no definite role to call home, to the kit design, and the playstyle he even embodies, he is a character that promotes toxic gameplay while offering very low contributions to the team he is playing with. Granted, I am cautiously optimistic for whenever a rework is announced for Wraith, given how there have been some overloaded kits that have been released. Yeah, I'm looking at you, you insect STI-infested hoe. Wraith is not the only one who is guilty of such non-interactive designs. Like, do not even get me started on Wukong being utterly ridiculous, especially when his optimal playstyle is to ignore teamfights and split push turrets or jungle objectives. Did I mention you can't destroy his clones? Or how about Dekka falling out of her role as a support since the removal of active items and is now being billed as either a poor man's mage or ADC? Or how that FaZe literally has one of the most one-dimensional gameplay loops I've seen in this game. It's beam, link, blind, and then dead. She is just a short-range mage that struggles to find any relevance in the game and is just a nuisance to deal with overall. Now, people may be quick to point out about how that Wraith and the other characters that I've brought up were originally designed like this, and that developers are trying to keep as many of their characters one-to-one with the original kits as possible. To which I simply say, why? Paragon was its own game with its own identity. They balanced and designed their characters differently in that environment. Sorry to say, this game is not the original Paragon, and why should it be? As much as older fans would love that, this game is going to go its own way when it comes to their vision for how they want this game to be played. The old hero kits from the original Paragon don't flow in this game one-to-one, and the flaws in their original designs are starting to show with each new patch introducing new changes like items and karmas. Like, imagine a character from Smite or even League of Legends coming into this game with their original kit. All hell would break loose. It's clear that Soul Eve needs to take these and some of the other heroes back to the drawing board and come up with a new and more engaging, healthier, and more enjoyable kit design for not only Wraith but for many others as well. As time goes on, eventually most, if not all of the original heroes will have some fundamental changes, but only time will tell how that all pans out in the future if and when that even occurs. Now, despite this video sounding like nothing but negative thoughts from everything I have stated, we know that the developers know how to make really good kits with nuance in them. If we look at Mako, Adele, Xena, and Marty, these are prime examples of how with a little bit more thought and foresight into their kit design, they can make the older heroes shine with a new coat of paint. The team behind the game have clearly shown that they can come up with more interesting and more in-depth ideas for heroes' abilities and how they can either be creative and or effective. If you were to ask me, I would personally like to see him fully cemented into the Ranger role, but give him actual Ranger properties. For example, how about transforming his Q drone into a stealth mine that lingers for a while? Or making his right click not as infuriating or at least scale with physical damage? Or something truly insane, switching his E and ultimate around and give his rewind some serious power, like a team-wide rewind. Is it too much? Perhaps. But a man can dream. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion on the state of some of the characters in the game. If you guys have anything to add to the discussion, or think I'm entirely wrong about my thoughts on the matter, don't forget to leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more discussions here, then throw me a like to keep the YouTube hellhounds happy. And with that said, my lads, I'll hopefully be seeing you guys in the next video. See ya.